How did you get involved in Eurovision?
We were a band going back before the Eurovision, for about 3 or 4 years before the Eurovision, and Martin and I were writers, and the songwriters that year had to nominate the band that they wanted to sing their song. So we wrote a song called Save Your Kisses for Me, and we nominated Brotherhood of Man to sing it. So that's how we got involved with Eurovision.
This was a different way round. The band that had a hit and had been a little bit quiet for a while, and then totally re-established from Eurovision. So Eurovision was a boost for you in a way, was it?
It would be, yes, without a doubt. I mean, there was already United We Stand as a hit for Brotherhood of Man, and of course we'd had another small hit called Lady, and then we'd just had a million seller called Kiss Me, Kiss You Baby. So whilst we weren't hot for the UK, that's when Save Your Kisses, of course, brought us really up to date here. But of course in Europe, they'd already, we were already plugged in, as it were.
So how did you view Eurovision in 1976 when the offer came to you for Save Your Kisses for Me? How did you feel about doing Eurovision?
Brilliant. Couldn't wait. I remember we were in, where were we in way down on the south coast somewhere, and was Cornwall or somewhere, and was doing this Newquay, yeah, that's right. And we were staying in this little guest house or something or other, and it was 12 in those days, not 8, and we was waiting for the call to be in the last 12 for the Albert Hall. We were just like dying every day waiting for the phone to ring, our manager to phone up and say yes, we're in or we're out, and we just felt that we'd got a song that was worthy of being in the 12, and if we could get in the 12 that would be great, and when the phone call came and we were sort of like, we were selected for the 12, it was like, oh, it was fantastic, it was brilliant. But music was different in those days to as it is now anyway.
Were you, let's just backtrack, were you already selected for the Eurovision, or were you against 12 other artists?
12 other artists. There were 12 other artists along with us.
Because I think that would have been the first year that changed, because the Shadows, I think, year before.
Yeah, before that, it always used to be one artist sang, like Michael Ball done the 8 songs, or whatever it was. They changed it to give it an uplift, and they said we'll have 12 artists with 12 different songs. So that's when, and sort of relatively new artists, and that'll give a whole new, and we'll put it on at the Albert Hall and we'll do a real big razzmatazz, So we hit the best year of all years. I still maintain that. Whilst everybody that's in it, it's obviously a special time for them. But when you look back over the years, I think we hit the one and only year that was fantastic. It really was fantastic. And of course it was even better because we won.
And really, Alan, I mean, that is what it needs now. It needs to have lots of money put into it, and it needs to be backed by the record companies, because then it will take off again, and treated in a special way. I mean, I know on this year we've put our entry to, or our final 6 weren't there, and no, 8, our final 8 songs, and they went on Live and Kicking, which was a pop show, which is great. They went on Top of the Pops. That was great, and they're making a stand there, but record companies need to back that, and I think even more thought even than that needs to come into it, because even though the songs were very good for our represented this year, I still think they're not quite chart entries, which is what, we're looking for, really. That's my opinion. I don't know, do you agree with that or not?
Well, I didn't hear all the songs this year. You did, I didn't, you see, I missed out on it. But generally, my own opinion is I do feel that the standard of the songs could be higher, could be higher.
Eurovision was always to represent that country's typical musical output.
Yes.
Yes, and that's why in Europe we were all very much alike in a way. All right, England was always a little bit ahead, of the record market, really. I mean, because they all had a different style. Because we had different record companies as well in every different country, didn't we? Mm-hmm. So, it was different. Whereas now, I think, mind you, no, I might be wrong. I was going to say, have they changed? They have come up a little bit more. Looking at the entries that have been over the years, a lot of the European countries have become more chart-orientated. But I suppose really countries like Greece or whatever are still very much their own nationalistic sound. So.
When, in your time, in that 1976, 20 years ago, when you represented Britain, was the song written, especially for Eurovision, in mind, if it hadn't come up for Eurovision, would you have done it as a record anyway?
Ours, it was, I think, written, yes, because actually we wrote it the year before for the Shadows, but it didn't go in for the Shadows. It hung about for a year, and eventually it went in for ourselves. So, no, maybe not. But, yes, it had Eurovision in mind when it was written, definitely.
How do you write a song for Eurovision? What are the key elements?
Well, of course, it was different then than it would be now. But I think this year's entry is very good because it's what they call Euro pop, isn't it? And it's very upbeat. And because I think what they've got to try and do now is appeal to young people with Eurovision. It's got this old name. And if they can make it appeal to young people, by young people I mean from 5 to 15, that young, I think it's got to go on all the kids' programmes throughout the days and try and get them interested, because then when they grow up a bit, Eurovision can carry on. But if anybody writes in now, I should write for young people between 5 and 15 throughout Europe, you know, and Europop seems a good idea. Seems great.
When you did it in 1976, so what kind of audience were you writing for? So you giving advice for people now, but when you wrote Save Your Kisses For Me, how did you know, or you planned towards a Eurovision audience? Why did you think this one was going to work so special?
We tried to put something for everyone in it. You know, we tried to make it an attractive lyric and melodic, as well as being up-tempo, and a few little things. We tried to make it interesting all the way through, because you've got to remember most people are only going to hear it once, and then they got to vote on it. So it's got to be instant, and we just tried to pack everything into it we could, and luckily it worked for us.
Do you think the routine worked? You had quite a memorable routine.
Yeah.
Without a doubt.
Yeah, of course it did, yeah.
Because we didn't do the routine with the thought of, look, this is going to be catchy, this is going to help us win. The way that we used to perform on stage in the early 70s, every song was always choreographed. So naturally, when it came to Save Your Kisses For Me, we called in our choreographer at the time, right, you know, set a routine for this. And little did we think, I mean, the most biggest things comes out of little simple thoughts, doesn't it? Well, just to make the song look nice and sweet, we'll do this little dance. Never thought it would be so big and it would catch on. I was told in ballrooms people were taught how to do the dance. Well, then as the years went on, we didn't do the dance anymore, and we thought, oh, no, you know, it's a bit old hat now, it's cool just to stand there and sing the song sort of thing. And we didn't do it for years, and people would come up to us and say, why don't you do the dance anymore? You know, and this is on every show. So a few weeks ago, I persuaded the others that a certain section of the song we would get together, stand in that line and do the dance, and the place gets, you know, it just erupts because you're doing the dance. So it was never meant to be a big thing to go with a song. It turned out bigger than what we ever thought it would, you know.
Exactly, and from that year on, that was what every country copied.
Yes, they all copied us. They all
did.
copied us.
They did. They put choreography, you know, movement to music, you know.
Eurovision before, because until about mid-70s it was just a vocalist, because you didn't have groups before, did you?
No, that's right, you know.
You had to stand there and you weren't allowed to plug your song with a routine or
No.
kind of sides.
That's right. Well,
it's funny when you
did that, though, didn't
funny
it?
though when you do see the sort of like playbacks, as the girl said, what you know, everything up to us was basically they stood there and sang, including ABBA. They just stood there. Though ABBA went a little bit further because they dressed up, which no one had done before. So they dressed up, but still stood there. But the difference with us is we done a choreography which no one had ever done before. And from that year on, if you watch them all, everyone's a choreographed Eurovision, even today, you know, so...
Did you obviously, because we were talking earlier about the record companies not giving good backing, what was your record company backing like then? Obviously they've been
Great.
Great.
And why do you think the record industry's attitude has changed?
Well, I mean...
Standard of artists.
Yeah.
The standard of art. Sorry. Passing this microphone back. This is being edited, though, isn't it? So it's all right. Yeah, I think the standard of artists dropped and the standard of songs dropped.
So what do you think went wrong? Did we just lose
I
interest, or
no,
was it complacent?
I think one of the things that went wrong, you know, the year that we did it, they changed the format where the songwriters were able to nominate the artists to record the songs. What happened is now you're getting songwriters writing, you know, fairly decent songs, and they get some bimbo to stand up there and sing the song who hasn't got any talent, who can't sing, doesn't know what it's like to stand up on a stage, but the kids look great, great little bodies, you know, cute little bottoms, and they can wiggle about. This is male and female, but they're not performers. That's my opinion, and I think, do you agree with that? It has happened a lot, I think so.
I would say that some of the artists have lacked the experience, that's all. They come into it fresh, young and lovely, but when you go actually onto that competition and you stand on that stage on that night and you find you're competing with other countries put in their biggest stars, you know, big stars, and these people are experienced, and you're out to what we were to 500 million viewers. And believe me, when you think and you're representing your country and you've only got 3 minutes only to sell yourself, and that's when you need an awful lot of experience behind you and guts. I remember Martin, all of us, we'd been working together for a long time, and I remember he was shaking and very nervous because he had to sing the lead. It didn't show because his experience carried it through. But, you know, I've watched, I forget the young lady, but it was Paul Curtis's song one year, and he had a lovely blonde girl who delivered tremendously. Can you remember it, Alan?
Samantha Janus.
Yes, Samantha Janus, that's right. Looked beautiful, delivered the song in the Song for Europe to the British audience. When she went to the final, she fell apart, and you could tell she was very, very nervous. And really, that was a shame, but that's just lack of experience. But another thing I think that would enhance it is in the year we won, countries could choose the language that they sung the songs in. And a lot of them did choose English, and because a lot of most Europeans speak English. And I think that's an advantage. And I think that is what has made it slightly boring to a lot of maybe the British viewers, because we switch on and we don't really understand, and we have to watch a Greek song in Greek and we don't know what it is. It's like opera. You either, now they have the subtitles, everything, yes, you know, but it's still not the same. And I think that would help, I think, if countries could choose to sing in whatever language they liked.
Because a lot of languages sound quite ugly.
Yes, you see, and a language does suit a song. You know, like the French language is very romantic. So, you know, maybe people might choose their song to be sung in French. Well, a lot of people do speak French. So that's more of a common language than, say, Greek or Turkish or whatever. What do you think?
It's true. I agree entirely. And in our year, you know, you could sing it in English, any language you like. 1976. A lot of people sang in English, French people, or they done half and half. But as Sandra said, I mean, we've had, Save Your Kisses has been covered, well, in the first year it was covered by about 120 people. And, when you hear some of the covers, I mean, if we'd have sang it in whatever language, it could have been Italian or Greek or whatever, it sounded nothing. In comparison to singing it in English.
What about the
you know,
that you were
and the
given?
Japanese.
Yeah, how many versions were there?
Oh, 120 in the first year.
Yes,
but I mean, But I mean, when the Japanese sang it, the whole crux of the thing is, even though you're only 3, that's the whole point of the thing, you know, because you could be singing about a girlfriend or whatever, your wife, but then you come in with the catchphrase, even though you're only 3 type of thing. I mean, they went straight over that. That didn't mean a lot, you know. So different things mean different things in different languages. And I think maybe... I mean, we're only talking the English side of it here. It would have a lot more appeal, I think, if they could sing in English, if they wanted to, that is.
So what's it like doing the Eurovision? Because looking back at press cuttings, you were kind of clean-cut winners before it even started by reading back to the press in 76.
Well,
they all kind of said, this is the winner. So did you feel
who knows?
Added pressure?
We were number 1 in the UK charts for 2 weeks before we went out there to The Hague. So it was absolutely marvellous. Were we in Europe as well, number 1 as well? I can't. Yeah.
So do you think that gave you an unfair... Well, I suppose you wanted the win, but that in some ways gave you an unfair advantage if it's already number 1 in quite a number of European countries. and the juries obviously would have already know the song, so it kind of gave you an unfair advantage.
Well, don't forget, all the other songs would have been released as well. So, you know, if
had their relevant
yes,
songs
so I
on
mean,
the top.
if they were good enough, they'd have been number one as well, darling. You know, come on, no, seriously. But you know, so they were out as well. I mean, you know, who knows what the public's going to buy? I mean, all right. I mean, here, as Martin said earlier, we did have the special year of 1976, the Albert Hall, the first time that Song for Europe, the format was changed, where the writers nominated the artists of their choice, you know. But so that was great in this country. But in the other countries, you know, you go on the playlist, it's down to the public, you know.
So, how do, obviously you've been around Europe quite a bit, how do other countries view Europe, the Eurovision Song Contest? Here it's kind of mocked by the press and the rap companies.
Oh no, they love it. They love it. There's not a big problem out there. The problem is back here, you know, because we think we're sort of music leaders, or supposed to be, and record companies think you've got to be cred, you know, all this street cred business. And music was middle of the road more in the 70s than what it is today. I mean, you wouldn't say music is middle of the road today, though it's slowly turning back in that way, and it's great to see a melody into the charts. But we went through that 80s phase, didn't we, where everything was like rap and God knows what. And I mean, some raps are great and some things have a great feel. But in general, I mean, could you imagine a rap thing ever sort of winning the Eurovision? Or, I mean, I can't even imagine. I mean, 20 years ago, when we wrote Save Your Kisses, I mean, who would have thought it lasted that long? And I mean, it'll last now for as long as we want it to last, I suppose. We're amazed that people still know it, and the younger people know it and whatnot. But I think the music was a little bit more middle of the road than what it is today, so maybe we've got to reflect what is today to get into Eurovision. But can you still remember it is the problem. Can you sing it? Can you hum it? And if you can't, and as Lee said, it's one listening, you know, and the Europeans seem to be more into the music scene than we are here for that kind of thing.
That's why I still think it's a song and not a sound
Oh, of course.
that will always do it.
Of course.
Really, I do. Yeah, it has.
Oh,
That you
yes.
remember.
And that's what then people tend to say, well, that's corny, isn't it? You know, because I can sing it, you know, and that's when they start putting it in that corny bracket, because they can sing it. I mean, I can sing the chorus of this one this year. I mean, I've only heard it a couple of times, like, ooh, ah, just a little bit. So it's got to catch there. Whether it's strong enough or whether she'll be strong enough, we'll only know on the night. Because, as Sandra said, when you're up there, the pressure per square inch when you actually go out onto that stage is phenomenal. I mean, especially when you just follow an artist that may have just done a platinum album and just sold another 40 million singles and albums, this, that, you know, it's like following Queen that was representing their country, and you're coming out as a total unknown, unexperienced. I mean, there's a mega amount of pressure there.
Because they've still got this rule where you've got to perform to or with an orchestra, which head of Warner Brothers this year is worried about, because obviously the Gina G track is just
Are they
synth backing.
not allowed to use a
No,
track?
they've got to go with an orchestra.
Uh-huh.
So they feel that's going to be their downfall. So do you
Yes.
think if they got rid of that rule and let them be what they want to be and actually let the musicians on stage completely take control, will that be a bit easier?
Could they, I know this sounds silly, but again we get down to pressure, and we've seen great musicians in a studio, like, you know, work on our records and so on and so forth, and they're unbelievable musicians, trust me. And when that red light goes on, somehow they freeze. And it's, I mean, a television company showing round the world, especially today, let alone 500 million when we done it. I mean, we're talking satellites and God knows what now. We're talking thousands of millions of people. If they want to tune in, they can't afford mistakes. They can't afford someone to freeze on that night, and musicians to start playing bummers and oh God, you know, I'm so nervous, you know, when that pressure comes on. And that's what happens with the vocalist or the act. The pressure is enormous. People have no idea. You know, it really is.
When we used to do Top of the Pops, it was always a live orchestra. Now, who was it? Patrick? Was it Johnny Patrick?
Yeah,
the orchestra. And great musicians. And all the big stars, Dusty Springfield, all singers, anybody who could perform always perform the song. But of course, then when the sounds came in, that is very difficult, as you say, to reproduce. And I think it would be an advantage to them to be able to reproduce the modern sounds, if that is the way to keep it alive. You know, if they want an orchestra, then let them have an orchestra there. But if if it's a track such as Jeannie G's, is it, this year, then she should be allowed to have the track, you know, to keep it up to date, if that's what it takes. You know, other than that, write a song that's just melody and that's simple. You know.
So our downfall in Eurovision, because you were in the first 20 years we won it 3 times. In the 20 years since we've won it once. I think after you we had Lindsay DePaul, Mike Moran, 2 good professionals. But after that, then we started falling into this league of newcomers. Do you think that's where it's gone wrong?
Yeah.
It could be.
A lot of it.
so.
I think a lot of it is down to not having experienced people do it. And I'm all for giving everybody a chance, you know. But there is a limitation.
Yeah.
When you actually go out on that, even tonight, when we walk out tonight, the pressure, entertain me for an hour and a half is what people are looking at. Do something, entertain me, you know. And whilst we all make our job, whether it's an interviewer like you or whatever, we all think, oh, I could do that, I could ask a few questions. Try it, and then you'll realise how hard somebody else's job is, you know. And when you're into that magnitude, as I say, the pressure is enormous.
I remember Jimmy Savile saying about us once, because a lot of people knocked us for winning the Eurovision, and Jimmy Savile came up and he said, the nerve that it took for them to stand there, he said, I'm very proud of them, he says, because that, you know, they won for us. And he was really for us. Do you remember that? Yes. And I remember meeting him at Top of the Pops and saying, thanks very much, because that was really nice, because everybody else seemed to be knocking us, you know. And I know Michael from Bucks Fizz said, you know, he came up to me at one of the music functions and he said, you know, he says, people keep saying to me, you wait a lifetime to win Eurovision, and then you spend a lifetime living it down, you know, and getting rid of it. And really, that's a shame, don't you think? Because it's a great contest, and I personally hope that they never, ever stop it, because it gives writers a chance, it gives new artists, if they've got that bit of experience as well, you know, but it does give a new artist a chance. And I think it's great. It brings countries together. It's lovely.
You say living it down. I mean, that's the one thing we've never, ever done.
No.
You know, I mean, a lot of people, as you must experience on this round you're doing now, getting interviews with various artists from Eurovision. I'm not going to talk about the Eurovision, you know, and all this business. And I know Sandy Shaw's very much like that, because we work with her on various things and she won't talk about it or even sing the song sometimes. But it's the one thing I think all of us here, we're not running away from it. I wish we could win it next year and the next year and the next year, because we're not frightened of it, because we've had success out of it, and the proof is here today and tonight and 20 odd years on, you know.
Oh, and can I just add something? I've just thought of something which Martin has made me think of. I am right in saying this, aren't I? Our song, you know, Kisses, that won the Eurovision, it's the biggest winner of all time. It has sold the most records of any winning Eurovision you know, song. So that's
But
good,
again-
isn't it? Something
Again,
for
it
the
never
record.
seems to get the credit for that. I don't know why.
Could we do
but-
it now,
I was going to
please?
say why.
Yes.
Exactly. I don't know why. I mean, often on television shows, or they're talking about the Euro, they go 1972, 3 and 4 and ABBA and this and that and the 1977, 78, and you think, hang on a minute, did they miss 76? I'm sure they did. And often they've skipped over us as if like, and we're talking British, you know, we're keeping the British, so we're not talking about who's won outside, we're talking about, you know, the Eurovision as Britain, and they sort of skip over us and don't even mention us. And whilst it doesn't really matter in that way, you just tend to think sometimes, you know, we've been the biggest Eurovision winner of all time, and yet British people are talking about it. You know, it's not the case that we want them to hail us and all the rest of it, you know, hail Caesar and all that. It's just the case that, you know, it's just nice to be recognised, you know, that's all.
Having
Like
said-
Linford Christie is, you know, if you won something for the country, why not recognise it?
Yeah, but having said that, every year that Eurovision comes up, we come to life, because we are mentioned, really, and the song is remembered, as far as I'm concerned, because every year there's always somebody going to phone up and say, you know, are you still together, and, you know, whatever. So Saviour Kisses did an awful lot for us the year.
other countries as well. We ought to say we've talked a lot about what happens here, what the feeling is here in the UK, but I know this is going out all over Europe, isn't it? And they've made us so welcome. When we go to European countries, to France, to Germany, to Switzerland, to Holland, to Belgium, to Spain, to Portugal, anywhere you can think of, they've made us so welcome for so many years. And it was really nice of them to ask us, and we want to come again, please.
In fact, every year after that, Switzerland, in fact, I think about 3 years running, we were the cabaret performer for the Swiss when they actually held their, Eurovision entry. Weren't we? And it was great. Yes, absolutely. Yeah, no, they were good days. Very good.
So how do you see, if Eurovision has got to get back onto the league it was in the 70s, what's it got to do?
Go on, Sam, you haven't spoken yet.
Well, I think my one thing would be to, yes, let the countries choose the language. That's my most important thing. Nikki, what would you say?
I think the standard of songs has got to improve. We need better songs, definitely.
Yeah. Record companies to back it, the BBC to even back it more if they could. Don't lose track of it. And, what else?
To get young people interested in it, because we want it to go on and on and on. But it's thought of as an old thing, and we've just got to get those youngsters interested. Put it on their programmes. What was the programme you mentioned?
Live
and Kicking. All those sort of hip programmes for the young people. That's what they want to promote it on, and get all those people interested in it. And then we can all love it, just like most people do but don't admit to.
If you had to explain the Eurovision Song Contest to someone who'd never seen it or heard of it before, how would you do it?
Oh, God. That's, what, from beginning to end?
Well, how would you just sum it up to someone who thinks...
It's a lot of hard work. I mean, first you've got to write the song. Well, as I said earlier on, it takes 6 months out of your life for anybody that wants to get involved, as in from the writing point of view, because you've got to write the song, record the song, find the artist. Then the artist has got to be the artist appearing on the actual visuals on the record that's going to actually sing it. Then you've got to get through all the voting situations. Then if you're lucky enough to get through into the 8 or whatever they are, then you've got to dress them. Then you've got to teach them whatever they're going to be taught, if they're not pros or whatever. Then if you get through to that, you've got to then... these are all like nerves, and the pressures are coming on here, each step. And then you've got to go to the final, and then you've got to win the final. And I mean, so when I think back to what we'd done, and we never realised what we'd gone through, the hurricane we'd gone through, as in beating like all these different countries and winning in our own country and so on and so forth. It's only when you look back and you think, my God, the odds on, it's like winning the lotto, type of thing. It's immense pressure. I think people don't realise, and I suppose if you went in with knowing all this in your head, maybe you wouldn't do it. So the answer is to enjoy what you do, write a great song and get it in. That's the answer.
I think it's along with the pressure, it's immense pleasure if you win it. It's like winning everything, isn't it? Winning anything at all. To represent your country, it's great. To be a songwriter and hear your song played and known all throughout the world must be a great feeling. And if that competition can help that writer, which it should, then that's a great start. We all, record companies put records out, and we take it that, yes, there's lots of television, it's given lots of coverage, natural coverage, without a Eurovision contest for it, and they push it, and it's played, and then it makes it. If people like it and want it, it will succeed. But that competition can help it, can give it a kick-start if we promoted the competition, and more writers would write, and etc.